Okay, this is Daniel on the Daniel Fast. I'm going to be nice enough to show you how to make my Tofu-quiles. If you try this, you're going to have a yummy, yummy breakfast. So here's how you do it. First you take a little bit of evu. That's what it looks like. About, that much. Just a little bit all around the bottom of the pan. Just enough to cover the bottom of the pan. Then you chop up a bunch of tortillas into little squares. We're going to toast the tortilla. So I'm toasting the tortilla and I'm just moving it around. The toasting takes about, I don't know, 15 minutes or so. You're asking how many tortillas is that? These are 6 regular sized corn tortillas. They're 100% corn and water. That's all they are. And a trace of lime to keep them from spoiling too fast. They put a little bit of lime in them. So you want to move it around until you see that every little piece of tortilla has oil on it. That way it's crispy. Basically what I'm making is migas. If you want to do this like migas, you could use even less oil and basically, just toast them so lightly that you can't even taste the oil in them. But anyway, so this is what I'm doing. I'm just spreading them out so they can get toasted right. And then I'm going to, after they're nice and crisp, I'll show you what it looks like, which is not much different. And then I'll throw the tofu in. So you can see what kind of a flame I got going there. I don't know, medium, high, medium. It's a medium flame. See, because that's a high flame right there, so I'm figuring that's a medium flame. Anyway, so in the meantime, you want to get your beans going too. These are frijoles de la olla. How do you make these? You just soak them overnight and cook them for about 3 hours and yum, yum, yum. Put a little bit of sea salt. I hear sea salt is okay. If you don't want to do salt at all, then don't put any salt. Now we've had the chips toasting for about 12 minutes or so. You can see it's crunchy. Okay, not exactly like a deep fried chip, but crunchy enough. So we're going to throw in some salsa. So you want to take one big, looks like a big tablespoon, just kind of heaping tablespoon, and just plop it in and stir it around. Stir it around just to get it around. You don't necessarily have to get it on the chips. You just want to stir it around and get it all the way around the pan, on the base of the pan, so that the pan gets that salsa flavor into the oil and into the base of the pan. And then that's done. That's that. And now we throw in the tofu. You'll notice that your chips are going to start to get soft, which is okay. That's the whole idea. So you take your organic tofu, firm. Notice it says firm tofu. Okay, get some firm tofu. Now make sure that you drain the tofu, because tofu has water in it or whatever. It's got liquid. So you want to drain it, you want to squeeze it, shake it, make sure you get all that out. Okay, drain your tofu. So you got your tofu. You want to take about half of that container of tofu, cut it in half. Alright. Okay, so you just take it out in your hand and bring it on over your chips here, and you just crush it in your hand, just squeeze it. If you got little hands, you don't want to do this whole thing at a time. I've got really large hands and I could, do the whole half block with one hand. But you'll notice it kind of looks like egg already. And so you're going to have yourself a pretty authentic breakfast, because it's like, well, this looks like egg already anyway. So what you do is you just put it in and then you stir it up, little darling. Basically, it's like if you're cooking the egg until you know that your tofu is no longer cold, because the last thing you want is cold tofu in a hot breakfast. So you're not cooking the tofu, you're heating the tofu. So you can stir it around for, I want to say, maybe a couple of minutes, until you're sure that it's hot, till you see the steam coming up off the tofu again. And you can keep stirring it, or you can just let it sit, or both. I usually just stir it intermittently. All right, so I'll just leave it to sit there a while. Then I come over here and I take a look at my frijoles de la olla. They're starting to bubble. And I take my ladle and I just steer them around a little. Those are going to look good, with a little bit of salsa inside those too. And everybody who's eaten frijoles de la olla knows the longer you cook them, the creamier they get. So it'll be kind of like your refried beans, sort of, in a way. And we come back here into our chilaquiles with the chile, without the queso. But you can see the tofu looks a lot like the Mexican queso too. So, and I'm telling you what, when you eat it, you're gonna be like, wow, does this not have eggs? Because it's really, really good. So you can see the tofu is starting to take on a little kind of a yellowish color, and it's starting to take on the little bit of salsa. And what it's going to do is it's also going to take on the flavor of the corn tortilla. So what you want to do is let it sit there just a little bit longer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn up the flame a little, because this is a bigger portion than I'm used to making. There we go, like that. Just so that our tofu gets hot. And then after this, I'm going to be putting in the salsa. Okay, so our food is sizzling now. So I take this whole thing of salsa and I just pour it in. And you're going to notice, I just pour the whole thing in. You're going to notice, hey, my chips are getting soft. Yeah, these are not migas, these are chilaquiles. There's a big difference. Migas are supposed to be a little bit crunchy. You know, you don't put a whole lot of salsa. This, you just drench it with salsa, and there you go. See, you see that? Looks really good. Oh lordy. So what you do is you just keep stirring it around until the salsa gets hot. Sometimes, depending on how much salsa I have, actually, you know, sometimes I let it evaporate, other times I let it boil, depending on how much salsa I put. But as you can see, this looks a lot like just your regular migas con salsa. And if I were to put cheese on top, then they would be your typical chilaquiles. But here's the one thing I do also, is once I put in the salsa so that it don't get too dry, and so you get just the right texture, I bring them all to the center of my pan. Now if you have a smaller pan, you don't have to do this. You don't have to bring it to the center. What I do though is I bring them to the center of the pan, and then I cover them. Obviously this lid doesn't go with this pan, but it'll work. Okay, and then I just cover them for about after a couple of minutes, we turn off the flame and let them sit for another minute or so. And there you have your chilaquiles. So now we're going to serve it up. Now it's time to serve it up. Our tofu chilaquiles. Put it right there in that pretty little plate. Yeah. We get our beans. You're going to put as much water in as you want. Little side of beans there. And we put a little dop of homemade guacamole, organic. Now you can either have the guacamole or you can have the avocado, whatever. You know, either way, it's all natural. This one we whipped it up a little bit more because the avocados were really perfect, nice and soft. And we wanted to take advantage of that for a nice creamy guac. And there you have it. A fork, please. And it's ready to eat.